new translation. Okay, what's next? Ah, yeah, so if you can see how worn the pages are. See, let's pick a little snippet from that haunted place. To be honest, it's a very spooky place. I've been there a couple of times, and in the evening, hello, welcome back to ASMR story time. So I decided that instead of reading a story, today I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm just going to show you some of the books that I've been getting recently. Either that I've borrowed from the library, or I've bought, or people have lent me because they know what, the kind of books I'm after. So I'll be showing you the books, flipping through the pages a bit, and just a bit of an informal chit-chat about either the books or whatever pops into my mind, to be honest. So it's a less formal video. So, the first book that I'm going to show you is this one. This one is... a friend lent me this one, which is Welsh folklore. I live in Wales, in the UK, and it's an old one. I love old books, as I keep saying. So, 1911, this was printed. Okay, I just needed to change the lighting a bit. So I'll read through the contents of the book. So it's a book, it's not stories per se, it's more like accounts and talking about the customs of Wales. So the first one is love customs, and then wedding customs, funeral customs. The bit that interests me though is fairies and mermaids and ghost stories. I don't know if you can see these. So fairies and mermaids and ghost stories. So there's a lot of stories about fairies in Wales. It's I don't know, I get the impression from looking at my analytics that most of the people listening are in America. once this mist kind of rolled in and just sat just above the lake, and I went right up to the water's edge, and it was just really genuinely spooky. And it's just in a really beautiful part of Wales as well, just very, very remote. I'll probably read some of these at some point, some of the accounts. And the next one is one I've borrowed from the library, hoping it's in focus. Discovery concerning ghosts. I'm not sure what this is, I just picked it up because it looked interesting. With a rap at the Spirit Rappers. I don't know what that means. With questions, suggestions, and advice. To the Davenport brothers, dedicated to the Ghost Club. So it was published in London in 1864, this book. Cool. There's a little quote from Shakespeare here. From Hamlet. Thou comest in such a questionable shape. I don't know what this book is, to be honest. I think it's just kind of talking about ghosts in quite a scientific way. Giving you advice on what to do if you see one. Decide whether it's worth reading out. So this is a book I borrowed from the library anyway. I think my main thing is I just really like the cover. It's got some good ASMR sounds. Don't know if I've really got the nails for ASMR. Got quite short nails usually. is this, which I bought. Got it from Oxfam online. This is a good ASMR book too. So this is Edgar Allan Poe, a selection of poems edited by Montgomery Belgion. I think that's hers. This is that looks like quite sort of old-fashioned handwriting. 1949, whoever wrote that. Sorry, I'm having a variety of malfunctions today. My battery just went in my microphone. Okay, so Edgar Allan Poe. Got the book upside down. A selection of poems. Might read you a poem or two. So I've done the Raven already. Let's look at the Haunted Palace, page 32. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and steady palace, radiant palace, reared its head. In the monarch thought's dominion, it stood there, never seraph spread opinion over fabric half so fair. I think I'm not going to read the whole thing because the aim of today's ASMR video is just to give you some little tasters of different books. There's I think it is a poem about Lenore. There she is again, because she's in the Raven, isn't she? I think, I'm so sorry if I get this wrong, but I think that Lenore was someone that he was in love with, and she might have died. Apologies if I get this wrong. Feel free to correct me underneath, and I will be checking after the video anyway on the internet to see how wrong I am. Dreamland. Eulalie, a song. There's the Raven. That's such a good poem. The Sleeper. Romance. To Helen. Someone else I think he was in love with. The Colosseum. I really like the sound of pages being turned. That's a great sound. So, there's that book. I just put all my old books next to me. I'll just keep lifting them up one by one. So I've already read you one story from this book, The Ragged Mountains. So Tales of Mystery and Imagination by Edgar Allan Poe. So it's an interesting sound. It's kind of got little ridges on it, on the book. Into the maelstrom. I think I'll read that at some point. It sounds interesting. I'll read the beginning now. The ways of God in nature, as in providence, are not as our ways, nor are the models that we frame anyway commensurate to the vastness, profundity and unsearchableness of his works, which have a depth in them greater than the well of Democritus. That's a quote by Joseph Glanville. We had now reached the summit of the loftiest crag. For some minutes the old man seemed too much exhausted to speak. Not long ago, said he at length, and I could have guided you on this route as well as the youngest of my sons. But about 3 years past, there happened to me an event such as never happened before to mortal man, or at least such as no man ever survived to tell. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? What other stories do we have in here? There's The Gold Bug. I haven't read that one, and I keep seeing it in different books, so I need to read that one. Message Found in a Bottle. A Descent into the Maelstrom. The Fall of the House of Usher. William Wilson. The Murders in the Rue Morgue. Or just The Mystery of Marie Roget. The Pit and the Pendulum. The Telltale Heart. The Tale of the Ragged Mountains. The Premature Burial. The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather. And the Cask of Amontillado. Holmes short stories. Another good ASMR sounds. Sherlock Holmes, His Adventures, Memoirs, Return, His Last Bow and the Casebook, The Complete Short Stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. (1928). A Scandal in Bohemia, The Red-Headed League, A Case of Identity, The Boscombe Valley Mystery, The 5 Orange Pips, Case of Identity was the one I did, wasn't it? Yeah. The Blue Carbuncle, The Man with the Twisted Lip. I'm pretty sure I've seen that in one of the Sherlock Holmes episodes. Basil Rathbone. I can't remember what it's about though. They're very thin pages in this book. Very tissue paper thin. Nice fanning sound. Blue carbuncle. What does carbuncle mean? Is it like I thought it was like a boil or something. Okay, well, I've got quite a few more books to get through, so that's the Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so next up is True Irish Ghost Stories. Seymour and Nelligan. This is another one I borrowed from the library. True Irish Ghost Stories. I live in North Wales, and you can catch the ferry to Ireland, and you can get there in a few hours, so we're quite close cousins. So this was published in Dublin, in London in 1926. Humphrey, Milford. Oh, both the places. So haunted houses in or near Dublin. Haunted houses in Conshalf. Haunted houses in Moxhalf. I don't know how you pronounce these words. Poltergeists. I know how you pronounce that. You probably know what a banshee is. Don't need me to talk about that. Not that I'm an expert. Miscellaneous supernormal experiences, legendary and ancestral ghosts, mistaken identity. I might read some of these in future video as well. Haunted places. Let's see, let's pick a little snippet from that. Haunted place. That houses are haunted and apparitions frequently seen therein are pretty well established facts. The preceding chapters have dealt with this aspect of the subject, and in view of the weight of evidence to prove the truth of the stories told in them, it would be hard for anyone to doubt that there is such a thing as a haunted house. Whatever explanation may be given of haunting, we now turn to another division of the subject, the outdoor ghost who haunts the roadways, country lanes, and other places. Skeptics on ghostly phenomena are generally pretty full of explanations when they are told of a ghost having been seen in a particular spot, and the teller may be put down as hyper-imaginative or as having been deluded by moonlight playing through the trees. That sounds quite cool. I'll read that at some point. I'll read more of it. That's haunted places, apparitions at death, apparitions after death, and apparitions before death. Group 3. They've sort of categorised the different types of apparitions. Death warnings, banshees. Of all Irish ghosts, fairies or bogles, the banshee, sometimes locally called a word I don't know how to pronounce, Bohitha or Bangitha, I've probably got that wrong, is the best known to the general public. Indeed, cross-channel visitors would class her with pigs, potatoes and other fauna and flora of Ireland, and would expect her to make manifest her presence to them as being one of the sights of the country. I'll have to read you a banshee story. Supernormal experiences. So that's that book, True Irish Ghost Stories. The Sorrows of Satan. I don't know what this is. I think my friend lent me this one, 1895. The Sorrows of Satan. It's a romance by Marie Corelli. Flame bearers of... oh, you can't see it. Flame bearers of Welsh history. I don't know if you can see that. some nice images. The men of the four, what does that say? Cantraves, imploring Llewellyn to lead them to battle for freedom or death. The Treaty of Montgomery. Llewellyn and Edward. I'll have to have a proper look through that to decide whether to read anything. George is a bit out of focus, but he, can you see? He's very relaxed. Okay, what's next? Oh yeah. So I bought this one. It's an old version of Grimm's Fairy Tales. If you can see how worn the pages are. Falling apart. The book is falling apart. Just opening it makes a crinkly sound. I'll definitely be reading some of these. So The Frog Prince, The Cat Who Married a Mouse, Fairy Tale True, Hansel and Gretel. I'll just name the ones I know. I think I know The Fisherman and His Wife, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, I love that one. I was thinking, because it's spring is in the air, and I was thinking, I'm not sure, I'm going to want to be lighting the fire in summer when it's hot outside, so I might read some of the stories like In the Wood or something. Might be quite nice to read Little Red Riding Hood when I'm actually in a wood. What else do I know? Actually, not very well, not very many. None of them on those pages. Nope. Anyway, I'll be reading some of these in the coming weeks and months. Grimm's Fairy Tales, The Frog Prince. So the old Welsh medieval text that I mentioned earlier. The myths and legends of Wales. Nice hard-backed book. So this publication is exactly 101 years old. Tales from the Mabinogion by W.J. Townsend Collins, arranged and decorated by Fred Richards. So I like these illustrations. So George has had enough. It's quite warm in here now. I'll definitely read some of these at some point, so that you get a little taste of Welsh mythology. Orlac at the House of the Nine Pines. Griffith and Bronwen. I've got